救人亦都夠鐘啦。咁咧就
Members, we have a quorum. This is the appointed time. On the 20th of November 2015, the Innovation Technology Bureau, the ITB, was formally established, and the Secretary for Innovation Technology is now going to brief us on the work of the ITB as the ITB's scope of work is related to both the CIP and ITB panel, and based on the administration's request, we hold this joint meeting so that members of both panels can discuss with the administration on the objectives and way forward for the ITB. And the first item is to elect a chairman in relation to 22K of the House Rules of the Legislative Council. When a joint meeting is to be held between two panels on a issue of common concern, the panel involved should decide which chairman to chair the meeting. And Mr. Wong Ting Kwong of the CI panel and I have agreed that Mr. Wong Ting Kwong is to chair the but I will chair today's joint meeting. So if there is no objection, I will chair today's joint meeting. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong said he will not chair this meeting. So if there is no other questions, I will move on to item 2, that is the work of the IT Bureau. And may I
創新科技處處長蔡淑嫻女士、資訊科技總監楊德
May I welcome the IT Bureau Secretary for Innovation Technology, Dr. Nicholas Yang and his team. The administration has prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and after going through the presentation, the floor will be open for members to ask questions. Mr. Nicholas Yang. Thank you, Madam Chair. Innovation technology is a major driving force to raise Hong Kong's competitiveness and improve people's livelihood through economic and sustained and diversified economic development. And after its establishment on the 20th of November 2015, the IT Bureau has taken forward the formulation of policies in promoting I&T. And over the past few years, there have been a lot of suggestions which are important. We have drawn reference to these suggestions, and earlier I proposed 9 work priorities to set direction for the work of the IT Bureau. And we have gradually implemented these work priorities. Members are very interested in the details of these 9 work priorities, and I am happy to brief members of these 2 panels related to the work of the IT Bureau on the work, and I thank the Secretariat for arranging for this joint meeting. Now, by way of a PowerPoint presentation, I will walk members through the work of the IT Bureau. It will take about 20 minutes to go through the 9 work priorities. After that, I'll be happy to take questions and comments from members. So let's give a start. Now, first of all, I will talk about the 4 important key factors for successfully developing I&T in Hong Kong and the 9 direction and work priorities. To promote sustained and diversified social and economic development, the government of the Hong Kong SAR is determined to develop the local I&T industries, driving the upgrading and transformation of our overall economic structure, thereby raising Hong Kong's competitiveness and improving the people's quality of life. Hong Kong possesses advantages in a number of areas, but at the same time, Hong Kong also faces a lot of challenges. For example, our low investment percentage in R&D comparing to other neighboring cities will undermine our competitiveness. So we need to grasp global opportunities and to tackle all the challenges. Is that the next slide? I'm sorry, I skipped one. Now, under the IT Bureau, there are 2 departments. I think you are clear about that, so I won't go through the details. I just want to say that these 2 units or departments under the ITB will be able to take on the initiatives in a more coordinated manner. There are 4 important key factors for successfully developing I&T in Hong Kong. First of all, I&T involves group collaboration, and the government cannot successfully drive the work on its own. All stakeholders, including the government, industry, academia, and research sector, must provide support, and the government assumes the role of facilitator. Second, massive investment by the public and private sectors in R&D is indispensable. Currently, the investment made by the government accounts for over half of the total R&D spending. We hope that the private sector would increase investment in R&D to exceed the level of investment made by the government. We must have long-term vision. We must focus on projects with development potential. We must make long-term investments. We should not expect the projects to bear fruits in the short term. Thirdly, we need to face the global market. The size of the local market in Hong Kong is limited. We must therefore encourage the industry to expand in the overseas and mainland markets and strengthen technological collaboration with the mainland and overseas. Fourthly, I&T talents are the most important factor for success. On the one hand, we hope to nurture and attract a large number of technology institutions, talents, and experts to converge in Hong Kong, create cluster effect, which allows for the integration of knowledge and talents, attracting local young people to join the force in I&T. On the other hand, we also hope to create an overall innovative and entrepreneurial spirit in society, encouraging more innovation and entrepreneurship. Next slide. We have set 9 directions and work priorities to bolster the 4 important key factors, as I mentioned. Number 1, promoting R&D collaboration. The ITB will make focused efforts in promoting collaboration between Hong Kong and the world's top-notch science and research institutes. Hong Kong's innovative capabilities, potential, and room for development are recognized by advanced institutions worldwide, such as the Karolinska Institute of Sweden. Earlier this year, the organization announced that it would set up in Hong Kong the Karolinska Institute China-Hong Kong Regenerative Medicine Center. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology of the U.S. will also set up the first overseas innovation node in Hong Kong next year to pull students, scholars, and entrepreneurs from the U.S. and Hong Kong together. We also need to step up collaboration with the mainland through state key laboratory schemes and Hong Kong branches of the Chinese National Engineering Research Centers. R&D institutions and personnel in Hong Kong can also participate in partner organizations in the mainland. And we also would like to promote collaboration to attract more overseas organizations with rich R&D resources to come to Hong Kong. Number 3, promoting reindustrialization. I understand that many people have a question mark over this idea of reindustrialization. I want to say that reindustrialization doesn't mean attracting factories which have migrated out of Hong Kong to return to Hong Kong. Instead, it is about promoting high value added industries, so as to bring Hong Kong's industrial development to new heights and to create more employment opportunities. And these high value added industries can also promote development at other levels. And in order to promote development of high value added industries, we propose to expand the Hong Kong Science Park and adjust the industrial policies in Hong Kong. In relation to the Science Park's expansion project, we have consulted the CI panel members. Reindustrialization is a global trend. The US, Germany, and the mainland already have reindustrialization plans, and Hong Kong should not fall behind. And with the advent of Internet of Things, cloud computing, and big data analysis, we need reindustrialization to integrate with these technologies such as remote health monitoring and wearable devices that would facilitate the production of home care products. And rapid development of e-commerce in the retail sector, coupled with electronic logistics and 3D printing technology and other new materials, also encourage new industries and create new employment specializing in small quantities of personalized products. Number 3, promoting investment on technology startups. The IT Bureau will actively study and introduce measures to encourage private organizations, venture capital funds, and angel investors to invest in I&T, including studying the feasibility of co-investment in technology startups by government and private funds. We will also continue to provide financial support to technology startups through different schemes, such as the R&D Cash Rebate Scheme, Enterprise Support Scheme, Corporate Venture Fund set up by the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation. Next slide. Currently, the ratio of currently the investment in R&D by the government is more than half, and we want to increase the level of investment in the private sector such that it exceeds that of the government. At present, the ratio of annual public and private sector investment in R&D in Hong Kong is around 6:4. Whereas for foreign developed economies, the corresponding ratios are between 4:6 to 3:7. China, as a developing country, has a ratio of 1:3. So we need to implement suitable measures to attract more investments from the private sector in R&T, which can be the leverage to increase the effect of public funds. Number 4. Studying the Smart City Initiative. I think we all know that the government will study the Smart City Initiative using Kowloon East as the basis, so as to make people's life more convenient, healthy, and environmental friendly. The ITB will collaborate with the government bureaus and departments, focusing on examination of the requisite information technology infrastructure and providing support in digital technology. We are going to set down frameworks and specifications. We will also draw reference from other smart cities. But different smart cities have different focuses, so we need to conduct our specific studies to identify the framework for our city.
Well, we need to set up a standard so that we'll be able to come up with a better development of smart city. Fifth, building Hong Kong into a connected Wi-Fi city. The ITB will seek to build Hong Kong into a connected Wi-Fi city. We are going to advance the speed and IT technology and to use big data analysis to open up more use of technology, and that would also bring forward new technologies and to facilitate application of data in a more open manner. Fifth, promoting the adoption of innovation in technology and addressing social issues. The ITB will promote the adoption of INT in assisting to address social issues, for example, serving the elderly. Through the ITF, the Innovation and Technology Fund, the government will work together with other stakeholders to continue to support R&D centers in applying their R&D outcomes in public sector organizations. Seventh, promoting the use of local technology products and services. In the past 2 years, the government under the Standing Offer Agreement for Quality Professional Services have procured information and technology services. We are going to seek to promote the procurement of local INT products and services and to put forth suggestions for improvement in order to help suppliers promote their business and expand business opportunities. ITB will also to seek to promote local INT products and services on the condition of not violating the agreement on government procurement of the World Trade Organization. Eighth, augmenting the pool of innovation and technology talents. Talents are the most crucial success factor in developing INT. Currently, there are a number of schemes under ITF that encourage young people to undertake innovative and entrepreneurial activities. The incubation programs under HKSTPC and Cyberport also provide support to technology startups. In the past 5 years, there have been 3 programs now increased to 5. And you can see the development of such programs in Hong Kong. In addition, the OGCIO will enhance the enrichment programs and various activities in the school sector to help students lay the foundation for building knowledge on information technology. So we are targeting high school students here. We hope that we'll be able to demonstrate that there is development in INT. And through attracting top-notch international science and R&D institutions to set up operations in Hong Kong, we will inspire young people to join the force in innovation and entrepreneurship, supplying high-caliber talents for the industry. We can draw reference from Israel's recent development for this. Ninth, encouraging the collaboration among institutions. The ITB will proactively strengthen ties with various stakeholders in the government. We will try to complement each other and create a synergy effect. So that would include the different policy bureau departments, R&D centers, young people, the media, and of course, all LegCo members. For KPIs, the key performance indicators, I'm sure you have many views. I also like to share with you our view. Formulating KPI is an important task. But KPI is not a one-time effort. We must reach consensus with the stakeholders during the process of setting these indicators to ensure that the indicators are effective and acceptable to parties concerned. Although KPI is important, the development of INT is also important as it is an ever-evolving process. KPIs are only part of the means to measure our work over this long-term and continuous evolution. Therefore, after the indicators are set, we will also need to regularly review and revise them in light of the actual situation. We are confident that we will be able to formulate KPIs based on the above work priorities. We are not just looking into short-term development. We are confident that once we formulate good KPIs, it will also help us with the development of innovation and technology. Lastly, I would like to say that the National 13th Five-Year Plan advocates innovation as a new economic driver. Together with Belt and Road, these are also many opportunities for us. We can work together to promote the development of innovation and technology. The next gen internet, big data, Internet of Things, and fintech and blockchain technology will all become opportunities for all of us and will bring along changes to the entire world. I hope that Hong Kong will make good use of these opportunities. Thank you. First round, 4 minutes each. First, Mr. Low Wai Kwok and then Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you. Mr. Low Wai Kwok, Emily Lau, Charles Mok, Leung Kwok Hong. Mr. Low Wai Kwok, thank you. The Secretary has talked about some important priorities. One is investing in R&D. Right now, it only accounts to a very small percentage of our GDP. It doesn't even reach 0.08. That is a very low number. So I would like to ask Mr. Yang, what indicators you can set or at least aim to achieve in a short period of time, and whether there are any concrete ways to try to stimulate more development in innovation and development. We have raised that investment in R&D should bring tax benefits. I'm not sure what your response would be. Another work priority is to nurture talents. I'm sure that nobody will be in objection of this, but in reality, by 2018, our workforce will reach a peak and then it will gradually go downhill. A week earlier, the CS gave us some figures in our population that the number of people in the workforce will continue to decrease. So how can you ensure that we are able to continue to develop INT with the reducing workforce? Mr. Yang, thank you. I think it was in one of the FC sessions that Mr. Low raised the same question. I have agreed that the GDP proportionate should be raised. Mr. Low suggested 1%. Well, in the short term, I think I'm talking about within 1 year should be 1%. The crux of the matter is to try to try to reverse the percentage or to proportion, because the government cannot act as the sole leader. We do have to share the risk with other stakeholders. Recently, we have said in the FC that in the projects in R&D centers, the percentage of private sector keeps on rising. We are going to work towards this goal to try to raise the investment in the private sector. Once we are able to actually reverse the percentage, I'm sure we'll be able to achieve 1%, and that will not be too difficult. However, we also need to take note of Hong Kong's GDP issue. The GDP is actually affected by many external factors. Very often, you would see that we keep on increasing our investment in INT about 60 to 70%. However, there is still no sign of increase in our GDP. I do agree that we need to raise the percentage. As for talents, I have just mentioned that Israel is very special in that it's in battle. Every single minute, basically nobody wants to visit Israel. However, it can transform its talents year on year. Israel is very talented in this. This year, they may be working on e-commerce. Next year, it may be cyber security. Well, I'm sorry, time is up. Can you wrap it up? So I think that we really should draw reference from Israel, because aging population is something we cannot change. But if we're able to effectively nurture talents, that would be very good. Well, he's not very clear in his answer. Ms. Emily Lau, and then Mr. Charles Mok. Now, Madam Chair, well, we're talking about talents. We are not Israel, nor do we operate under the same environment. Young people have said that they are not confident in Hong Kong. Many of them want to leave. They want to go to Singapore. Nobody has said they want to move to Israel. Well, yes, as the Secretary said, it is not something that the government can do alone. You need to work with other people. Why would other people want to collaborate with you? It would only be because you listen to their ideas. You cannot just be inclined. Even Mr. Charles Mok, such a mild and humble person, you do not listen to his ideas. I'm sure that people in other stakeholders would understand that they can only collaborate with you only if they listen to you. So how can you really retain the talents? We're not Israel. We do not have their tricks. Well, what can we do? There are many young people in the sector, but the young people are frustrated. They are pessimistic. They don't think that investments would be given to their projects, and they think that they think that the government is unfair, unjust, unjust, and so there are lots of these problems. So how are you going to resolve this problem and instill confidence into the young people of today? Well, thank you, Ms. Lau. I think I have addressed this question before. Well, you're talking about, some consultation. I will, of course, listen to your views. Mr. Charles Mok and I think we've known each other for over 10 years. So I don't think you have to tell us that again. Well, I do listen to his views. I've said in the FC that Mr. Mok's idea on how to reindustrialize I do agree with his views, but have you listened to other stakeholders' ideas? Have you let them felt that, you are really listening to them? Well, yes, I will continue doing this line of work, but I do hope that, you would give me the opportunity, Ms. Lau. Well, Madam Chair, I'm saying that, young people want to move to Singapore. Mr. Charles Mok, do you want to move to Singapore? Have you heard the views? Well, our young people do not only go to Singapore, they also go to the mainland as well. Well, people are very important. Talents are important. But of course, failures occur more than success. Now, let me first finish with this, ecosystem. We have to try to nurture or to try to retrain those who have seen failure and to help them succeed.
So, in a way, the Science Park is doing this. Well, if you look at the past 5 years, the ecology wasn't evolved until the recent 5 years. Well, as for the centers, we have increased from 5 to some 40, and this is very encouraging. And we need to take in the whole picture. For young people in the past, they started their own business, they worked on their own, but now with the advancement of the internet, they can now share their success with others. They can work with others. And that's the same with other incubatees. So they have now a broader vision. Mr. Charles Mok. Well, I think Secretary has read my article. He has referred to my article. Now, I want to ask about points 4 and 5 of 4, 5, and 6 of the directions and work priorities. Secretary, you know that you need to collaborate with other bureaus. Now, for Smart City, for example, in the past when we had questions in this council concerning Smart City, the questions will be referred to the Development Bureau. So now if we have questions on the Smart City, will it come under your bureau? If we want to raise a question, say at the panel, it should come under your bureau. I think as far as the positioning and the delineation of work of the administration is concerned, I think your bureau is more appropriate, the more appropriate authority to deal with the smart city. I think Madam Chair would be very familiar with this, about the problems facing this initiative. Well, we need to tackle different departments such as the highways department, so on and so forth. I won't say that they are not collaborating with each other, but for points 4, 5, and 6, I think the problem lies with coordination among departments. So I like to hear your response, please. And also point 7 on promoting the use of local technology, products and services. We understand that there is this limitation under the World Trade Organization agreement. In other countries, I see that they have innovation vouchers given to SMEs locally. This will help local SMEs enhance their capabilities. So can we have some good news as soon as possible, say in the upcoming budget? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Mok. I did listen to you. I'm not kidding. Mr. Mok knows his stuff. Now, on Smart City, I think after the IT Bureau is established, anything related to ICT, Innovation Communication Technology, should come under the IT Bureau. On digital standards, big data, right. The IT Bureau should take the lead in these matters. And we're going to reach consensus with other bureaus. Now, will you be able to resolve the long-standing problems that have existed for more than 10 years with other government departments? In fact, this morning we were discussing these matters. I understand that these bottlenecks are really hard to resolve, but and I understand that there are voices in the industry that we should rely on the government, but I ask why. I say, why not use the PP approach, that is public-private partnership? As for promotion of local technology products, under the World Trade Organization agreement, there are different approaches. As you may know, one of the approaches allows for it to be taken on if it's below 200,000 US dollars. And we can also consider some localization requirements. That is, to request an overseas company to collaborate with a local company. And this is the approach taken by Singapore. So innovation vouchers is one approach, and we're considering other approaches as well. Please give me some time, and I understand that you want to have some good news. I may be able to give you some good news, but I need to think it through thoroughly so as not to affect the operation of other government departments. Next, Mr. Raymond Wong, followed by Mr. Lam Kwok Hong. Thank you, Madam Chair. This secretary is here telling us the vision of the IT Bureau, and that there are 4 important key factors, 9 direction and work priorities. In fact, the vision of the Bureau. It's just a lot of hot airs. We don't agree that establishing the IT Bureau would really promote IT development. But anyway, now that the Bureau has been set up, and Mr. Charles Mok has really done a lot to see through this, of course he is going to support you. Now, in terms of IT policy, I don't think the government is doing enough in certain areas. For example, promoting collaboration with mainland and overseas country institutions. And reindustrialization means developing high value-added industries in Hong Kong. Promoting the use of local technology products and services means providing references for recommendation for quality products and services, so on and so forth. These are very vague descriptions. Low interest loans, low cost land premium or tax concessions. These are concrete measures that can help companies, not these vague ideas. I think you and I think the industry is not very happy with your initiatives, and I think you know this. There have been a lot of detailed discussions over all these specific issues by the academia and on other platforms, and this is the Legislative Council, and we're here to monitor the government, and of course we expect more that of you than the academia does. Now we need to consider the philosophy of governance. Now, for R&D companies in Hong Kong, most of them are SMEs. Many companies even find it difficult to survive in Hong Kong. If we had a company comparable to the Microsoft in Hong Kong, but we don't, and they don't need any subsidy. Even adding all the companies' productivity together, it can't really compare to a large enterprise like the Microsoft. So for Hong Kong, most of these companies are SMEs. They find it difficult to survive. So if you really want to promote R&D development, you need to help these SMEs by, say, giving them tax concessions and providing them with subsidies. Otherwise, The government is already taking on a lot of these initiatives already, even without the Bureau. The question is whether the industry will be happy with the government's assistance. And that's another matter. Now, you say that you will, through various schemes such as the Enterprise Support Scheme, R&D, cash rebate scheme, and investment in the Science and Technology Park, so on and so forth, promote R&D development. But like I said, these are existing measures. Even they're even in place even before the IT Bureau was set up. Now, the paper also mentioned that the Karolinska Institute of Sweden would set up an institute on regenerative medicine center in Hong Kong, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology would also set up an innovation node in Hong Kong. So what are they about, apart from the medicine center of the Institute of Sweden and MIT center? Because you're actually benefiting research or postgraduates, mainland students. What else would you do to help Hong Kong, Mr. Deng Kwok Hong? Well, Mr. Wong Yuk Man has asked me to follow up on this, so definitely I will. According to the media about this Karolinska Institute of Sweden, Mr. C.Y. Leung's son actually works there, and $400 million have been granted, have been donated. I don't know whether this would be set up because the institute needs to support C.Y. Leung's son. It's really an eyesore to me, and I don't know. Well, you're already giving credit to yourself for setting up this center, even before it is set up. If you didn't facilitate the setting up of this center, how could you give credit to yourself? And the other point, MIT. What is the greatest project of the MIT? To develop a micro computer for the space shuttle that landed on the moon. And at that time, the MIT was accused of being given preferential treatment. Now, if you really have a project, then so be it, but why are we asking MIT to come? I don't know whether John Zhang was actually a student there. I don't know at least whether he was a graduate. Perhaps he studied for a year or two there. Perhaps it's an alumni gathering for him. So tell me, for the first overseas innovation node in Hong Kong of the MIT of the United States, please explain to me. What is this about, the first overseas innovation node in Hong Kong set up by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology of the United States? Second question. Now, C.H. Tong about Disneyland granted 60 hectares of land to Walt Disney to set up a theme park. Priority was given to Walt Disney. Now the site is left idle. Now, will you be able to get that site from C.Y. Leung? I think the site would be the best location. And also for the first overseas R&D center to be set up by the Karolinska Institute of Sweden. Please explain to me. The media suggested that a tycoon actually made a donation to the institute to support C.Y. Leung's son, who is working there. Is it true? Secretary. Now, let me first respond to Mr. Wong's questions. These are all old questions. That is to promote economic development through INT and to boost GDP growth. That's true, but then times have changed and we need to find new ways. Madam Chair, please answer the question on Karolinska Institute. Did he facilitate the setting up of that institute? Now, after the riot in 1967, in 1977, Hong Kong became one of the 4 Asian tigers. Now, the time is up. Next, Mrs. Regina Yip.
My question is similar to Mr. Leung's, but I ask in a more serious manner. So what does the Karolinska Institute bring us? Does it bring us as resources or what? How about the MIT Innovation Node? What kind of laboratory will it build? What kind of areas of interest would it bring us? The Karolinska Institute is the expert in regenerative medicine. It can nurture talents. It can bring over the technology and help to nurture talents. I think aging population really needs a regenerative medicine, but we do lack this technology in Hong Kong. Has Karolinska also considered other cities? Yes, Singapore also has approached them, but they picked Hong Kong. There is something that Karolinska has seen that. So where would the R&D center be? The Karolinska would use its own method. Well, you can even work with university. So what is the venue of the R&D center? I think the institute will pick Science Park as its R&D center. So you're going to nurture local talents in regenerative medicine. Regenerative medicine, we do have some professionals in Hong Kong, but they are all working on an individual basis, so we could try to create a synergy effect, putting them all together. The MIT will launch the Overseas Innovation Node in Hong Kong. They're now They're planning to build 6 nodes. They picked Hong Kong as the first venue. The MIT came over to Hong Kong and decided to set up a node here. So for MIT, this is a very long-term decision because they visited Hong Kong in 1999 and 2000. They have approached MIT alumni to invest in Hong Kong. They want to bring the ecosystem to Hong Kong from Boston so that scholars, entrepreneurs, and students from the States and Hong Kong can innovate together, and not only in Boston. They see that they're interested in the Hong Kong tertiary institutions. Right now, MIT is collaborating with the University of Hong Kong and HKUST. They want. So where would this venue be as well for the innovation node? They're also requesting to work in Science Park. Well, how many people are they going to send over to Hong Kong? Well, we'll have to work out the details. In the beginning, we're talking about tens of people. Well, that's not few. But mainly, they would have different people coming over to Hong Kong. They would come in batches. Some scholars would come, and then they would gradually there would be another batch coming. Okay, next, Ms. Chiang, thank you. Just now you gave us a PowerPoint presentation. I see that you have introduced to us two departments, namely the Innovation Technology Commission and the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer. I'm actually more interested in the work of the ITC. In the 9 work priorities, it seems that 1, 2, 3 are related to ITC, and then the rest are related to OGCIO. Yes. I'm interested in the ITC because concrete things are done in the ITC, and I'm a bit more interested in that. And the work priority 1, 2, 3 will be carried out by ITC. I want to know more about promoting reindustrialization. Well, every time you see me, I ask about reindustrialization. Before the handover in Hong Kong, I've also met with government officials who I don't even want to name them anymore. We've discussed, I've carried out heated discussions on reindustrialization. Many of them said that it's impossible. Well, I don't believe that it's impossible. The only issue lies in whether you're willing to take the plunge. London, New York, GDP account for around 17% in industrialization. Look at us. Well, it used to account for 20 or 30% in Hong Kong, but now it's only to 1%. But then Mr. Low proved me wrong and said that it's only 0.08% only. We're killing our own economy. I think those who are not interested in industrialization are actually slowly killing our economy. I see in your PowerPoint slide on promoting reindustrialization, you put in a lot of ideas. I think you only need to focus on highlights, the important points, and then to look at Hong Kong's competitive advantage. You don't have to use only big words. It's a bit deviating from the issue. We really must be more realistic. So I want to know, what is the current advantage in Hong Kong, and what should our focus be in the future? Mr. Yang. Thank you. Well, the figure is 1.4%, not 0.8. All these are actually raised by the industry, not me. Where should we put our focus on to? I've said it. We should focus on robotics first of all. Second, on smart cities. The development of Internet of Things, as I've said earlier, is putting together hardware and software. Mr. Lam mentioned about the textile industry. They're also focusing on the hardware and software. So you haven't addressed my question, but that's okay. I'll ask you again at another occasion. On another occasion. Mr. Chen, Cam Lin. The secretary has talked about 9 work priorities, which are all very crucial to the future development of INT in Hong Kong, especially the Karolinska Institute R&D Center and the first overseas innovation node by MIT in Hong Kong. I really like the idea of the Smart City initiative, but this is not easy to achieve. Many government offices still need manual application. So to achieve a smart city, you must first transform the government into a smart government. We are a bit backwards when compared to other countries in INT. Simply put, aside from the auto toll crossing the harbor, or aside from only 1 or 2 lanes in auto toll, all the others need to pay manually. Some even require exact change. So why can't people use the octopus or electronic means to pay the toll? The government said it will look into it, but it has looked into it for a very long time. These are very simple solutions, but promoting such solutions take a very long time. So I suggest you should first promote smart initiatives within the government. Many inventions are already used outside of the government, but the government actually is slower compared to others. All of these visions need money and land, and you know it's very difficult to get this approved in LegCo. It took us 3 years to endorse the opening of your post. So, you know, LegCo actually is a huge deterrent in these development. I hope that you would actually consider everything comprehensively, to talk more to the industry, to first seek a support from the public before seeking approval in LegCo. Otherwise, it would be of no avail. So I really do hope that you would consider this carefully. Next, Mr. Yu Si Wing. Thank you. The third point on the 9 work priorities is to promote investment on technology startups. Well, I think this is necessary because there's only a population of 7 million people in Hong Kong. On the mainland, we're talking about 1 odd billion. So SMEs find it difficult to build startups. If the government does not support startups, then it will all be unsuccessful. Last year, we worked on a promotion on working together with the IT on the IT level. So we provided a trade platform for some travel for the travel sector and some SMEs. The government really must look into setting up matching funds to help with tech startups. Right now we do have a fund for young people that also works as a matching fund. a user together with a small startup writes up a business proposal together. This technology could help the small startup to use its invention in the industry, and that is actually a very good platform for exchanges of ideas and an investment of funds. If the government can consider using this model, you can also use the model for promotion. At least, people would see that the government is in support of startups. I wonder if the administration will consider putting in more resources for this.
Secretary, thank you, Mr. Yu. In terms of matching funds, I think the government has already been working on it, and we will step up our efforts. Commissioner, Ms. Choi. In fact, in the middle of this year, in the early or middle of this year, we started the Enterprise Support Scheme. Our consideration is the same as what Mr. Yu said. We're not confining the applicants to SMEs, but also any party which is interested in developing I&T technology or to produce technology products. We can provide half of the funding support to its R&D work. And this is a new scheme, and enterprises are interested in the scheme. We have received a lot of applications. So we'd like to see if through the scheme we can help increase funding from or investment from the private sector. We provide a 50% financial support. As for other matching funds, we will look into that. But this is a new approach, and this is a leap forward. So you started it this year. How many companies or organizations are interested, and how many applications are successful? Commissioner, we rolled out this scheme in the middle of this year. So these organizations and companies may take time to write their proposals, and in September, October, we received more than 100 applications, and we needed time to discuss the details of the project with them. So time is needed, and yet we see that it serves as an incentive, and we're seeing some result. Next, Mr. Ng Sing. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, Mr. Yang introduces the 9 direction and work priorities as a way forward for his bureau. I think this will be put in the public spotlight, and more support should be given so that Hong Kong's I&T will not lag behind our neighboring cities. I'd like to ask about point 3 of the 9 work priorities, and that relates to an important issue: funding. That is, how will your gold bucket come by in the future? You need money to develop technology. Of course, another prerequisite is to have talent. But in order to have talent, you need money to attract talent. Just like the Silicon Valley, without monetary investment, there wouldn't have been the Silicon Valley. So I'd like to ask about this paragraph. The ITB will actively study and introduce measures to encourage private organizations, venture capital funds, and angel investors to invest in I&T. So that's a broad statement as to how investors will be invited. It depends on how likely the investment will generate return in the end. Otherwise, it will just be a laboratory, and you won't be able to convince taxpayers. So I don't know whether financial experts will be invited in your study to look into investment opportunities, and also in your vetting mechanism, will you consider engaging financial experts as well? The government will certainly take part in it, because in para 10 and para 11 you talked about the ratio of public and private sector investment in R&D 6.4 or 4.6 or 3.7, and it's not government business collusion, because without matching fund schemes, without investment from the public sector, it's really difficult to make a start at the initial stage. So what can you do to address the misconception? What can you do to rebut the accusations of government business collusion? Secretary. Now, let me answer your question. Yesterday, I was talking to VCs, venture capital investors, about this. Now, let me use Israel as an example. The Australian government provides funding, and then by tendering, they introduces 10 venture capital investors. So these VCs would only sign investment contracts with them. They will not take part in the management process, and yet the amount of investment must not be less than the amount that you put in, and that it would also take the lead in setting up a local training fund. And now the ecology has evolved in Israel. It has been in place for 10 years. So I think the key is whether we have sufficient projects. If we have sufficient projects, we can attract investments. I've been talking to VCs, and they say that we do have sufficient projects in Hong Kong. So it's about collaborating with the government. However, the government's investment must not exceed that of the private sector. Because we need to make them feel that they take their investment seriously, and that they can also freely choose what projects to invest in. And that's the idea. We're not trying to support the business startups all the way through its public listing. Sorry, Secretary, time is up. Next, Mr. Chan Chi-chun, followed by Mr. Ibrahim. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today's agenda item is the work of the I&T Bureau. So, Secretary, a question of the daily operation of the IT Bureau. The funding application had been approved in the Council, and in the end, the funding application wasn't approved until November, and the Bureau was set up on the 20th of November. And last time at the FC, we asked the Secretary a lot of questions, and he said that he just assumed office and the Bureau was just set up, and he wasn't able to answer us all the questions. But I wasn't happy with his answer, because there must have been some preparations before the IT Bureau was formally set up. So my question is this. If according to the government's version, the Bureau has been in the pipeline for 3.5 years, well, that's what Mr. Mok says as well, but I don't believe it. You're just renaming your Bureau. And yet now, you still haven't completed the recruitment exercise. When will we see the Undersecretary and political assistant? And will you do the selection for appointment, or will CY Leung do it? And also for the size of establishment under the IT Bureau, do you know what the size is? And have all the vacancies be filled in? Well, first of all, these two candidates are going through the selection process, is selected by us, not by the chief executive, and they're going through the formalities. Now, why are the formalities taking so long? We need to do a background check. This is the necessary procedure in the civil service. They need to comply with the basic law, so on and so forth. Even my background check took that long as well. So that answered your first question. As was the second question, we have an establishment of 20 or so. Would you say it is sufficient? I would say the more the better, but at least it's sufficient because we have a big establishment under the two departments. For the IT Commission, 200 to 300. For OGCIO, 900. These are serving staff. And we're just trying to make them give a full play to their potential. And we are consolidating their work and putting the two departments under the same bureau so that their policies would be more coordinated for enhancing effectiveness. As for when I joined the government, I could only say that I joined the government as a non-official member of the Executive Council on the 2nd of March this year. Now, if you want to talk about what happened 3.5 years ago, I'm afraid I cannot, because I wasn't yet the secretary. So you have all the headcounts ready and all the vacancies are filled. Yes, that's the case for civil servants. Do I need more manpower? Yes, but at present we need to get some work done before we ask for more manpower. Because according to media reports, at present there are still a lot of vacancies in the IT Bureau, and that you will move from the 26th floor to the 20th floor to a bigger office. No such thing. Next, Mr. Ip Wok Him, I need to draw a line here. We have no time for a second round.
3年嘅多嘅時間能夠正式成立運。
Well, I'm happy to see that after 3.5 years of preparation, the IT Bureau is now finally set up, and there should be more funding support for the IT Bureau, and members should refrain from filibustering and causing the meetings to be aborted. So as not to give the public an impression that we are very chaotic. Well, on the 9 work priorities, I'd like to ask some questions. For example, on promoting the smart city and also promoting Hong Kong or building Hong Kong into a connected Wi-Fi city. I'm interested in these two priorities. With technological advancements, Hong Kong will become more competitive. And these are important prerequisites. But what exactly are you going to do? Secretary, you talked a lot about your ideas. Recently, I visited some mainland cities, and they have created some platforms. And they also introduced internet-related measures long ago. So we will draw reference from these cities and also other places in the other Western countries. And would you be able to give us a blueprint? Let me supplement. According to the administration, the Wi-Fi city will be discussed at the meeting on the 11th of April, and the smart city item will be discussed on the 13th of June. Perhaps Secretary can briefly respond to these questions, but I just want to say that these items will be discussed at the next two meetings. Now, for smart city, we need to set the framework. We need to decide which cities we make comparison to. And then we need to consider demographics, transport, environment. These cities should have the similar characteristics. So in the first year, we're going to focus on this. Otherwise, there will be no standard, no framework for comparison. It will be difficult to formulate the KPIs. So this will be our first step. Now, on comparing ourselves to mainland cities, we have different issues. On the issue of privacy and security, Hong Kong people attach great importance to these matters, including members of this council. So I hope that you would think it through, and also how are we going to relate these two to promoting environmental protection. Can you give us more details?
其實智慧城市咧，第一
The main priority in smart city is to work on the application of big data. Second is environmental protection, because we are looking into sustainable development. These two would be very important in sustainable development. Next, Mr. Lam Tai Fai. Thank you. I do not understand why Mr. Chen Chi-chun used nine work priorities. Well, yes, Mr. Leung Sing used that first. I don't know why you have to how to you apply like a big banquet dish into as 9 work priorities. Well, members have said that they are worried about government and the private sector collaborating together. Which would bring a negative impact. Well, even if you're not bribing each other, you might not see benefits anyways. Well, people would always think of the government and the private sector working only for the good of each other. So I want to know that, when you're collaborating with Karolinska Institute and MIT, who's actually benefiting from this collaboration? Would Hong Kong benefit from it? And what kind of role do you play in this collaboration? Simply put, how do you collaborate? Do you have to invest money, or do you have to invest money and also give up a piece of land for them as well? I want to know what kind of collaboration you're looking into and how we share the benefits. You say that it's for nurturing talents. That's kind of vague. We don't want this to just be a platform for creating job opportunities. I want to know what role the government plays in this collaboration. What do we have to invest? Land, money, and how long the collaboration period would be, and whether there are any indicators on success. What would the ultimate benefit be for Hong Kong? I think I would ask the commissioner to address this question. For the KI case, they are going to use the science park, and of course we'll rent out space to them just like other incubators, and they would start their operation from donations. They're already talking on projects. They would also work in R&D in regenerative medicine together with our universities. the R&B projects would be considered by us for funding, and of course that would need to go through our selection process. Well, yes, so what does the government have to give for this collaboration? Well, we'll look into the collaboration model. If they are willing to invest half of the money, then we would also match the funding. Let's say it's a different collaboration model with the university, then we will also look at it. So what are the benefits for us? Since they're working with the universities in Hong Kong, the universities will also improve its knowledge on the this topic, and the R&D results will also be further developed. Well, yes, so we'll need to return the room at 4:30. So we're unable to extend our meeting. Well, there are other members who wish to speak after I've drawn the line, but I think you would need to seek this at on another occasion, because we really do not have enough time. The last question will be asked by me. I want to ask about the 9 work priorities you have mentioned. Well, the ITB will not be able to do this alone. You will need to see collaborations in many aspects, such as promoting the Smart City initiative. You will also need to work with the Education Bureau and other bureaus. For these trans bureau cooperations, for example, on the smart transport, recently there have been many complaints lodged on our not very smart transport system. Right now we are not able to use our apps to find parking spots, and we do not have a comprehensive transportation network to show us which transportation mode we could use. So can you really be able to promote these 9 work priorities working with other departments? Well, yes. I'm sorry. I've just talked about this issue with other departments today. How about I answer this first, because actually this is part of my work. We need the ITB to be set up because, for example, for reindustrialization, then you need to talk to the development, and then if you want to promote technology startups or maybe smart city, then you also need to talk to the other related bureau and departments. So this really need us to talk at the level of the bureau. Because if you're not able to talk at the level of the bureau, then it's very hard for the bureau to work together. I think it's the same with other bureaus. I think each bureau would need to confide in, or at least work with other bureaus for many initiatives. I'm sure that when other bureaus have concerns, then we will work out a feasible way to resolve the issue. Well, I can also add on to that. Well, yes, he already gave part of the answer. Yes, we do have to work together with other bureaus. You mentioned problems with transportation. Many people believe that the technology is owned by the government, but that's not the case. We do have to think of ways to talk to the industries and to the sectors to see how they can share the technology, because if the technology does not belong to the government, then we cannot use it. One way would be the government buying up the technology, or an alternative would be to use CTP to allow other SMEs to develop their business. These are also options. Bureau acting as a regulator might not consider these options, but we as the ITB will consider these options. All right, well, time is almost up, so I think we can only conclude our discussion here. Next item is AOB. We do not have any AOB. Let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you.